Now, you've heard Lee mention brainwave entrainment many times in his communications. Brainwave entrainment is the main function of the brain evolution system, and it's important for you to understand what it is and how it works. So, let's go over some of the origins of brain entrainment and its use today. First off, let me explain the term entrainment for those who may not be familiar with the meaning. In scientific circles, entrainment is defined as the action of adjusting the phase or period of a waveform by introducing it to another. Now, if that makes no sense, that's okay. I'll fill you in on the meaning of the word entrainment itself. In 1665, the great Dutch mathematician and physicist Christian Huygens coined the term entrainment after building several pendulum clocks. He noticed that when he hung a new clock on the wall, its pendulum would settle towards moving in unison with the other clocks already on the wall. No matter how he tried to start the pendulum swinging differently, they would always settle to swinging in unison over a period of time. Entrainment may also be observed when two pianos sit closely in the same room. When one piano is played, the other piano will respond as its own strings vibrate to the notes already played. This can also be done by striking a tuning fork and bringing it close to another. As you bring it close to that other tuning fork, the one that was silent will now begin to ring in unison with the tuning fork that was already struck. In the physical world, this entrainment type is referred to as sympathetic vibration. Now, that said, and before I digress, let me get back to talking about entraining brainwaves themselves. Quite notably, since the dawn of humanity, by the light of fire, rhythm, melody, and the tactile physical sensation of dance have been used to change the mood and consciousness of the human brain for some time. I could go on and on about chanting, singing hymns, tribal ritual, Mozart, or any other musical effect on the brain, but I won't. If you are interested in this product, I think it's fair to say that each of us intuitively feels the effect of any stimulus on our brains, and knows that our thoughts can be affected by something as simple as the pattering of rain outside to the moving complexity of an invigorating symphony. As we look back in history, several events have been recorded which point to outside rhythmic stimuli, causing the brain to entrain with stunning effects. I'll mention a few. Around 200 AD, Ptolemy noted that when he placed a spinning spoked wheel between an observer and the sun, the flickering of the sunlight through the spokes of the spinning wheel would cause patterns and colors to appear before the eyes of the observer and could also produce a feeling of euphoria. Much later, at around the turn of the century, French psychologist Pierre Janet noticed that when patients at the Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris were exposed to flickering lights, they experienced reductions in hysteria and increases in relaxation. In each of these cases, some form of brainwave entrainment was at play. Of course, brainwave entrainment couldn't be verified scientifically until 1908, when Austrian psychiatrist Hans Berger discovered the alpha brain rates themselves. This ultimately paved the way for recording brainwaves and allowed scientists to watch brainwave rates in real time as subjects were being stimulated in some form. Later in the mid-1930s, scientists discovered that the electrical rhythms of the brain tended to assume the rhythm of a stimulus. For example, one can take the stimulus of a blinking light, let's say at around 10 Hertz, and then have a subject watch this light blink. Over time, the subject's brainwaves will entrain to match the 10 Hertz rate from the blinking light. It was this discovery that led to the beginning acceptance of brainwave entrainment as a scientifically provable process. Then, later in 1959, one Dr. Chatria found that sound could also be used for brainwave entrainment. He observed an audio brainwave entrainment response to clicks at a frequency of 15 cycles per second. It can be said that almost any rhythmic or frequency-based stimuli can be used to invoke the entrainment of brainwaves to some degree, be it sound, light, touch, or anything else the brain can perceive through its senses. Here are a few common examples of brainwave entrainment that you may have experienced in regular life. Let's say that on a long trip, you may have experienced brainwave entrainment by cruising down a highway at around 60 miles per hour at night. As the bright lights flicker past your eye at a theta frequency, you slowly drift into a dream state, and before you know it, nod off briefly. You later awaken completely startled that you were ever asleep in the first place. Most of us know the meditative calm that can be experienced by sitting near a cozy fire, watching the flames flicker gently and the soft rhythmic crackling of the wood. The sound of ocean waves is another good example as they swell and subside, following some frequency pattern. This carries the listener into a state of deep and fresh relaxation. Again, brainwave entrainment, simply put, is when the brain takes in stimulus like sound, vision, touch, etc., and then emulates the rhythm or waves of those events with its own brainwaves. I invite you to do a Google search for brainwave entrainment and learn more about the subject. You may also contact us at EIC, and we will respond to any questions you may have about the product or anything else I've discussed in these talks thus far. Next up, I'll discuss the hows and whys regarding what make the brainwave evolution so powerful and unique, so please stay tuned.